All right, we are here
Hello. For a short time.
for a short time. We want to get to bed pretty soon, so we're gonna do half a chapter.
Mhm.
And right before starting stream, we broke the circuit for the internet, so we
Sorry.
just lost a bunch of time. And
That's
there's
on me.
there's nothing to be sorry about. That was just too many things hooked into one power strip. Well, we are here.
Wait, it was because of that, not because of me blow drying my hair?
It was probably both. It was probably everything at once.
Everything everywhere at once. Like that Michelle Yeoh movie coming out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I actually really want to see that.
I really do.
It seems really fun.
A24. I mean, they did The Farewell and Minari.
Yeah. Should be pretty good.
Mm-hmm. It's Michelle fucking Yeoh. It's gonna be great.
Uh, Before we start, the tower asked, why do we spell react like that? It's very simple. It's because Panda's a memer.
Hello.
She's a memer, and she's referring to this meme from 2017, which generally goes
You
like
Googled
this.
it?
Oh yeah, I googled it. It usually goes like this: he protect, he attack, but most importantly, and then he wants something that rhymes with all of that. So, Panda protects, Panda attacks, but most importantly,
To react.
you react. That's right. Well, I hope that explains our bizarre naming choices.
Because I'm stupid.
Yeah, more or less. Let's get started.
He agreed with me. Finally agreed with me. I'm stupid. Okay, go on.
Prey 14.8. How did it go? Tattletale called out to me before I'd even landed. I set Atlas down on the ground and hopped off. Whatever the fuck they just dropped on the city, it apparently took out Crawler and Mannequin. I'll believe it when I see it, Tattletale said. I think that was Bakuda stuff they just used.
Oh,
What about the other members of the Nine?
that is a name I have not heard in a while. So they figured out how to get the bombs to explode without anybody crossing their toes?
Turns out bombs can be triggered without toes.
You know, if it was Bonesaw, she'd probably just have like toes upon toes upon toes crossing. Gross. Like toes so long that you can braid them. I don't know, that just seems like a Bonesaw thing.
That sounds fun. I like that.
Sounds gross too.
They're on the run. Last I saw, Siberian's creator looked pretty rough. Not sure if the spider bites and stings will kill him, or if Bonesaw will manage to counteract it. Depends on whether Legend and the other heroes can keep up the assault long enough to keep Bonesaw from getting to work. I could see Bitch react to the mention of Siberian's creator. She looked startled, then scowled. You found them? Tattletale asked. Siberian and Legend? Yeah. Legend told me to scram, in case Bonesaw deploys the threat she's been holding over our heads, and so I don't get in the way. I would have fought to stay, but he's an intimidating guy to argue with.
Legend?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kinda is.
Gru nodded. I wouldn't feel bad about it. It means we can serve as backup, if the heroes lose.
Oh man, the heroes are not gonna like this. They already don't like working with the villains. Now imagine the villains having to clean up their mess. Y'all will never live this down. You will never live this down.
And this threat? Do we know what it is? Some zombie apocalypse? Regent asked.
You know, somebody as creative as Bonesaw, I feel like she could do better than just zombies. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She can do better than zombies. I made jokes about what mega Ebola, right? Where you bleed from orifices you don't even know you have, right? Like that's more Bonesaw speed. Like let's see the punishment.
Wait.
What would be a good take on zombies?
So instead of zombies,
What about everything else getting zombified except for people?
how is that any different? So are you saying inanimate objects?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. No, just I'm sorry, I don't like the idea of a bunch of zombie bugs coming after me. Look, I have a very simple rule for which bugs to be afraid of. Which bugs to be afraid of. If you can kill it, There's no reason to be afraid of it. If you're having some trouble and you can't kill it, run like hell. That's why I don't like grasshoppers. I can't get to them fast enough. If I have a fly swatter in my hand, a lot of things are toast. But grasshoppers, they're too fast for me, man. That's why they scare me. They're enormous and they're too fast for me to kill. That's why horror movies, like, ghost movies get me. See, if it's a psycho killer, I'd be like, okay, see, it's got a heart, right? You got to stop the heart and then the psycho killer won't come get you. Now, if it's a ghost, you can't kill it. It's already dead. Run like hell. Get the holy water and run like hell.
So you think Bonesaw can create ghosts?
Not where I was going, but I would love to see that.
Okay. Some zombie apocalypse? No. Tattletale shook her head. She sees herself as an artist. She's gonna want to do something that catches us off guard. Something that scares us in a way that simple horror movie monsters don't. I'm
looking forward to this.
I don't know about you guys, Sundancer spoke up, but monsters scare me enough. Says the girl who can vaporize buildings and give Leviathan pause for thought, Regent said, giving her a sidelong glance. Leviathan broke half the bones in my body. The only reason I'm standing here is panacea, Sundancer said, a little defensively. You two do raise a point, though, Tattletale cut in. Capes are powerful. If she wanted to scare the locals, she's done that. I'd be willing to bet the ace she has up her sleeve is going to be more aimed at scaring people like us. Like Legend. She wants
Did she take away your powers?
She wants to terrorize the strongest, target people who everyone looks up to and fears.
Could she take away your powers? I mean, that would scare me if I had powers and I thought like I was invincible and then somebody just took them away. I'd be like, oh shit,
Just us? I asked. She's shown she knows how to disable powers, Trickster said. If she did that on a larger scale, then no.
Woo!
Tattletale shook her head. She wouldn't have used the dust and the darts if that was the big reveal. It doesn't make sense tactically, because we could have come up with a way to deal, and Skitter's partially immune anyways.
Partially immune to powers being taken away?
Yeah, to her powers being disabled.
Because
she can subconsciously control bugs, remember?
Oh, right.
She ordered them to attack Bonesaw, if you remember.
Yes, okay. Great. It's a little late. Go on.
And it doesn't make sense artistically, either. You have to think of her as less of a scientist or doctor and more of a performer.
This is where I joke about being like very similar to Bonesaw.
Mm-hmm.
The jokes have been made, but I just take away the powers. What about you take away the powers and give them to something else?
Huh.
I don't know.
The tower says one of his favorite zombie games was a card shooter called Dead Man's Cross by Squeenix. Many zombies were objects like trains and even smog. That is amazing.
Oh, Squeenix.
Oh, Squeenix. A 30-story skyscraper tipped over and crashed to the ground in the distance. The rumbling crash of the building's collapse seemed delayed in getting to us. I could see Legend more through the flashes of his lasers than anything else, but everyone else was out of sight. Effects I couldn't have made out if they weren't on the ground. If we're lucky, we won't have to worry about Bonesaw's plot, Trickster said. Plan for the worst, Gru replied, staring into the distance.
Oh, Gru.
If you're right, you're prepared. If you're wrong, you're pleasantly surprised.
You sound like my dad.
Heard that one before, Imp commented. Still true, Gru replied, sounding annoyed.
Oh, Gru.
Can't plan for this, I said. I'm growing to hate tinkers. People with enhanced senses and tinkers. And fire manipulators. Sorry, Sundancer. She shrugged.
Wait, tinkers in...
Enhanced senses, tinkers, fire manipulators.
Tattletale doesn't count it. She's a thinker?
She's a thinker, yeah.
I'm sorry, one letter difference. Go on.
She shrugged. I turned back to the subject at hand. We can't guess what she's come up with because her tinker abilities make her so versatile. And that means we can't preemptively set up any countermeasures.
Oh man, you guys are starting the game of chess already.
Tattletale tucked her hair behind her ear. Fits in a vial, assuming that vial she was showing off was the real weapon. Something to do with water, she said. You guys haven't been drinking anything except bottled water? There were head shakes and the occasional muttered no from the rest of the group.
So are we thinking mega Ebola? Because that spreads in water.
Mm-hmm.
COVID-bola?
COVID-bola.
Yeah, you know. You cough. If you cough, like, it gets in through your nose and your mouth, and you cough, and something, blood pouring from your orifices while you're coughing.
Oh, that sounds nice. Sounds like a pleasant day.
What does COVID do? You lose your sense of taste and smell.
Oh,
your nose falls off.
Oh yeah, that sounds fun.
No, wait, that's syphilis, I think. I'm just going down the list of diseases. I'm just like, what can we do to combine all of these? What's horrible? What's really bad? I mean, zombies, you're right. I guess zombies is like, if you ask me, I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't do zombies. It's kind of gauche.
Yeah.
What's the most
It's
creative?
Also not, it's like the opposite of artistic in a way.
Right? I'm like, what's the most creative thing I could do? I mean, not that I don't love a good, like, IRL zombie, like the fungi that can take over ants. Like, that's a whole class. Cordyceps, look it up. It is horrific. Actually, I think I included the video. You don't have to look it up. Oh man, I know I'm like wasting time here, but what would I do if I wanted to unleash a punishment on like a citywide scale? I mean, zombies really would be fantastic. It's, in a way, it's classic, but it's also gauche. Let's see. Tattletale's thinking something in the water supply. So what if like the water turns to scarabs? Sorry, I like scarabs.
Yeah, you keep going back to the scarabs, Panda. Why?
That scene from The Mummy really stuck with me when they were like crawling. They were literally crawling in the guy's skin. I was just kind of like, oh, that's like the worst possible thing. Oh, that's why that scene in ReZero stuck with me so bad. Because, there's like a bunch of things like crawling under your skin. Ugh.
Yeesh.
I think that's something I don't like. Let me see. What was water supply? I mean, it would be funny to turn all of the water in the city to pee, but, it's also not, like, the worst thing you could do. I mean, Bear Grylls is still alive, and he was very well known for drinking his pee on that survivalist show. He's very, very alive, and he's drank a lot of pee.
Why would you remind me of that?
Why not?
Jeez.
I think it's funny. It's stupid. It's funny.
I've even been making my tea with it, I said. And we know there's going to be a strategic purpose behind it, beyond causing terror, Tattletale went on. You're getting into that headspace again, Tattletale, Gru said. Tunnel vision. Right. I'm done now, Tattletale replied. Is it such a problem? Trickster leaned forward. If you can give us answers about this thing, that's good, right? Tattletale shook her head. If I'm digging deep enough for answers that I'm losing sight of other things, it means I'm probably speculating, and that tends to mean I'm generating false positives.
Oh.
Heading down the wrong path to the wrong conclusions. I told Gru to stop me if I'm doing it, and Skitter's right when she says we can't anticipate what Bonezaw's gonna do, so it's pointless anyways. If we did want to take countermeasures, I said, we should maybe think about tracking down Amy, or figuring out where she is. Panacea?
Huh.
Gru frowned. She didn't exactly leave us on good terms. I know, but she can counteract whatever Bonesaw does.
Are we sure about this? Also, isn't she still missing her hands?
Not her hands. Fingers.
Oh, a couple of fingers.
Fingers.
Oh, okay, she's okay then.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would freak if I lost a couple of fingers. I'd lose my job. I wouldn't be able to do my job anymore.
Yeah, that would be freaky. Tower says Panda really wants some sort of plague from the tale of Moses.
Damn it. I actually am not as familiar with biblical stuff as I should be.
The red fog? Like that?
I'm shaking my head here. Like, my knowledge of biblical stuff is restricted to Renaissance paintings. So I don't think... So unless she's gonna...
Wait, you've seen Son of Egypt, haven't you?
Son of
Or
Egypt?
what was it called?
Prince of Egypt?
Prince of Egypt. There we
Okay,
go.
I have. But look, I'm just saying, my knowledge is pretty limited. That's all I have, okay? Prince of Egypt. My knowledge is pretty limited to Renaissance painting. So unless she's
Okay.
planning to rain, like, a flood of, like, pudgy babies down on the city of Brockton Bay, I don't know. Nativity marshmallows, as Hannah Gadsby calls them. I really don't know much. My knowledge of biblical shit is limited to iconography.
But you still know the Moses story. You know Passover, right?
Yeah, that was in Prince of Egypt. That was very well done.
Yeah.
Like, no.
There were scarabs. There was the red
Locust.
fog.
It was locust.
Oh, it was locust.
I don't actually remember what
Not
the red
scarabs.
fog was.
Or
Was it like
river.
raining? Did it rain blood or something?
I think it did rain blood.
It's like, look, I'm gonna put that in the same category as zombies. See, that's predictable. What is not predictable? I know. I'm doing a tattletale right here where I'm like, what's not predictable? What would I rain? I mean, one of my Catholic friends made a joke about raining foreskins.
Ooh, Tower's got a list for us.
Oh, let me see.
Terrible sores, sea turned to blood, springs of water turn to blood, the sun scorches people with fire,
We got Sundancer.
Satan's kingdom plunged into darkness.
Satan's kingdom.
I guess so. Armageddon, Second Coming, Great Fiery Hailstones. Okay, these are all biblical apocalypses.
See, but that's the thing. Like, in Western nations, people would expect that. We need something that, puts on sunglasses. They'll never see it coming. I'm sorry. I'm going to put on my persona mask. They'll never see it coming. We need something like, they'll never see it coming. So, Kingdom of Egypt. Yeah, it was Egypt. It was Egypt where they took all the firstborns. So Namor and I would both be dead because we're both firstborns. But
all right. You got to keep going because you want to sleep soon, right?
Yeah, but.
Oh, you want to predict exactly what Bonesaw's going to do?
I don't. I just want to see if I can come up with something equally, if not just a little less horrifying.
Well, you're not going to find out in this session. So.
Well, I wouldn't do blood. Blood is just, I don't know. It's so obvious. Like, what's grosser? I don't know. Like, puke's pretty gross. Like, let's see, body fluid. What's gross? Body fluid. Yeah, blood's pretty bad. I feel like there's like way worse things. I'm a dentist. There's worse things than blood. She could release like a poisonous gas on the city.
Okay.
That'd be pretty bad.
Just kill everyone?
No, I mean, it's toxic. It's not going to kill people. I'm not saying like mustard gas. Again, that's something that's been done. So we know she can do something better, aka worse than that. It wouldn't be mustard. I mean, I personally think flooding a city with laughing gas would be great. But again, I talk like I'm Harley Quinn sometimes, where it's just like, yeah, no, it'd be funny. We should do that. What is creative? I mean, this is all good stuff, but like, like, I thought, like, what's it? Like, what did I think the Huns, like, they fired, like, severed heads into the city. That was pretty creative.
Oh, yeah, that was...
I don't think they would do that, but I do like the idea of her taking away the powers and, like, I don't know, just, like, do you think she would do something like that? They said no, huh?
Yeah, Tattletale said probably not because she's already revealed that she can do it.
Right. So, yeah, so again, the whole persona mask. They'll never see it coming. Oh, man. I'm kind of excited. I just wonder what this is going to be. I'm, like, rubbing my hands together. I'm so freaking excited. I shouldn't be this excited. I'm also very sleepy. Go on.
All right. She can counteract whatever Bonesaw does. Unless she falls victim to it, Tattletale said, sighing. After 2 bad incidents downtown, I'd lay odds she's heading up towards the docks. It gives her the best odds of finding a place that's empty, where she and Glory Girl can hide out for heads up! I wasn't sure who had shouted the warning, but I turned to look in the direction of the fighting, and I instantly knew it was Bonesaw's work. The water was turning crimson. Where it was
it was the blood.
Where it was only 1 or 2 inches deep above the pavement, it turned a dark red that resembled blood.
Maybe it's algae. Maybe it's like, because that's a thing. I think it rained, people thought it rained blood somewhere, like over, I think, the Indian Ocean, but it turned out it was algae. It was algae, but it was very blood-like, and it was pretty gross.
It turned a dark red that resembled blood. That alone might have been spooky enough, but it was spreading over hundreds of feet in a matter of seconds, and there was a thin red mist rising in its
Oh,
wake.
so it's like the red fog kind of thing. Oh, so I was close with the gas thing.
Yeah, pretty close. Run! Rue shouted. I was on top of Atlas in an instant, and in the air a second later. How is it spreading so fast? I asked, while the others seated themselves on the two dogs.
Beta. No, Delta. Omicron.
He must have set it up beforehand, Tattletale called out. Just needed the catalyst. She checked to make sure Trickster and Sundancer were seated.
Maybe instead of like mustard gas where it like fills your lungs with fluid, maybe it looks like blood and then it eats up your body and you become blood and then you become more of the gas, and anybody who inhales it like pukes blood, and like, but the blood is not from their guts, it's from their lungs. Oh, maybe you could could this make you puke yourself inside out?
So an infectious gas.
Yeah, it turns anything it touches into more of it.
What?
Yeah, kind of like a chain reaction. I sound like the most horrible person right now. Like, I'm enjoying this too much. Like, I'm so excited.
I hope you keep riffing. You got you have a reputation to uphold.
It's just hot water.
She checked to make sure Trickster and Sundancer were seated, and had Bentley at an all-out run a heartbeat later. Sirius followed just 2 steps behind, carrying Gru, Imp, Bitch, and Ballistic. Regent joined me in the air, hanging in a less than dignified way from Shatterbird's embrace. I needed only one glance to know they weren't running fast enough.
Oh no.
Sundancer, I shouted. Cut it off.
Oh, does it explode if you hit it?
It took her 3 or 4 seconds to pull an orb together, no larger than a basketball. It grew to twice the size as it flew, raking across the street to turn the pooled water into clouds of steam. I rose higher in the air to avoid being caught by the plumes of hot water. The steam turned from a clean white to pink, and eventually red, as the effect reached it. Sundancer's miniature sun had slowed the progression down our flooded street, but it wasn't enough. From my perspective, I could see the water on adjacent streets undergoing the same transformation, moving forward until it was adjacent to the others. Then
so she did go for kind of a biblical plague kind of thing.
Yeah. I hope you're enjoying it.
I guess I am a Westerner where I kind of started reaching for that stuff too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Jack told Bonesaw specifically not to make that kind of pandemic, the one that Panda said.
What kind of pandemic?
An infectious one.
Oh, right, because it could get them.
Yeah, I think it's not just that it could get them, but that
you can't control it.
Yeah, and I believe the reasoning was just like, there is, I think it's part of it is control, and part of it is just not wanting to attract like that extreme amount of attention.
Oh, okay.
I think so.
See,
yeah.
In my case, it'd be a pandemic. Pandemic.
Yeah. Oh,
but
he also said too easy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was a matter of time before it reached far enough forward that it passed through the side alleys and cut them off. Get to high ground, I shouted. Bentley leaped for the side of a building in an alleyway, scrabbled for a hold, then leaped to the building face behind him, attempting the zigzag movements that the dogs had done so many times before. Except, he wasn't as agile as the other dogs, and I suspected he wasn't as practiced at it as Brutus, Judas, and Angelica had been. Added to that, he was carrying a heavy burden. One of his paws went through a window. He slipped, dug his claws into the wall, and shifted to climbing the wall instead. It was too slow. The water turned crimson beneath him, and then the vapor began to rise, faster than Bentley was climbing. Tattletale, I breathed. I massed thick clusters of bugs between them and the vapor, while Regent and Shatterbird followed Sirius and the others. It was enough to buy them time, but that meant precious little. No matter how much I pressed the bugs together into an airborne barrier, the vapor made its way through. Worse, the mist was rising to either side of them, approaching the top of the building.
Oh.
They reached the rooftop, and Bentley heaved himself over the edge. They hopped off his back
Is Bentley gonna die?
as they reached solid ground, and Tattletale stepped over to the corner of the roof to watch the rise of the red vapor. It was only a floor beneath them.
Run, bitch, run!
Trickster.
Literally. Bitch is there, right?
Yeah, she's there.
Run, bitch, run!
Trickster pointed at the top of a building nearby, then looked up at me. I gathered my bugs there, again, pressing them together. Trickster looked increasingly impatient as the bugs massed, and the vapor reached the edges of the roof. I hurried over to the building instead, then hopped off, sending Atlas over to the other rooftop. Trickster swapped me with Tattletale, and I hopped over to ferry myself to the roof again. Didn't trust my ability to use Atlas to carry someone else, when I had to struggle to process his sensory inputs. And someone else's shifting weight and movements, and I wasn't sure I wouldn't drop them. I was on the building again when Trickster swapped me for Sundancer. It left him, myself, and Bentley standing on the rooftop. I was on top of Atlas a second later, flying. The red mist crept in from the outside edges of the rooftop. He got on top of Bentley, looking less than comfortable holding the reins, and Tattletale whistled.
Come on, what's the mist do? I want to know what the mist does.
It wasn't as good as Bitch's whistles, but Bentley perked up and ran, leaping for the side of a nearby building. He and Trickster reached the second rooftop quickly enough. The mist was still rising, not just below us, but up around buildings nearly as far as the eye could see.
Can you guys see what the mist does? Please, I need to know for reasons before I go to sleep.
I told you you're not finding out. If we're doing a half chapter.
Oh, you're right. Oh man, it's like almost 11:30.
I'm going to keep reading until we get to a stopping point, okay?
How long is that going to be?
Pretty soon.
Okay.
Shit, Tattletale said. Not good.
I want to see some faces melting.
There's a taller building over there, I pointed. We should head there before the mist gets up here. I'd call it miasma, Tattletale said. And is there really any point? It might stop rising, I protested.
No, I don't think so.
It won't. Is that an educated guess, or it's not? I found myself at a loss for words. What does it do? I asked. Poison? Something else? Probably something else. Or it's poison, but it's designed to do something besides kill us. How are the others doing? I looked for Gru and Regent using my swarm sense. Gru, Bitch, Ballistic, and Sirius were on a rooftop lower than us. Regent directly above them.
Oh, you know it'd be kind of sick if the mist like can. Okay, hear me out. Instead of taking away your powers, it pushes the on button and it just stays and it like breaks it so you stay stuck. Like your powers are just always on all the time.
Oh, that's a fun one.
And you can't turn them off.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
Cursory exploration with my bugs revealed a glass dome extending around the rooftop. My bugs could fit through gaps in the glass, which meant the miasma would as well. I did what I could to block up the holes, and I knew it was useless. Brian. Rachel. I think they're caught, I said. I don't know what to do. You have a gun, you have your bugs. If the 9 are going to let their guards down, it's going to be now. All the ones who are still left are priority targets. Finish off Siberian, and taking Jack and Bonesaw out of action will be doable. You're saying I should leave you? Yeah.
No!
She looked down at the rising mist.
Dude, we just watched Cinema Therapy Dude Train to Busan, so now I'm just kind of like, no!
No, that's ridiculous. Let's get you to higher ground. It's futile. You'd be buying us a little time, but
She doesn't fucking die here, right?
But this is looking pretty inevitable. Your time is better spent going after their 9. If you can't find them, or if it's too dangerous, find Panacea. This isn't negotiable. I can't do anything for Gru and Rachel and Ballistic. Regent tried and he failed. Let me do this for you.
Oh.
Tattletale frowned. Fine, but you'll have to hurry. That's a lot of distance to cover, and the miasma's nearly here. Trickster cut in. Gather bugs together like you were doing. Remember that they're not as dense as our bodies are, so we need more than you think if I'm going to swap them for one of us. I nodded, and flew for the tallest building in the area. I turned around and waited for Trickster to swap me. He didn't. They stood at the roof's edge, looking my way, and the dark red miasma climbed up the sides of the building around them. It felt like my heart dropped out of my chest. Brian, Rachel, now Lisa. I couldn't afford to turn around and confront them. Time was too short, so I focused on gathering my bugs. I clustered them together, pressing them into a largish human shape. How many was enough? I felt a jarring sensation as Trickster swapped my bugs to his location.
Equivalent exchange. FMA joke.
Sundancer appeared beside me. Why? I asked. She shook her head. They didn't say anything. They were both really quiet while you flew off. And then Tattletale said, it doesn't look like her plan will work out. Tell her I'm sorry. Trickster teleported me here before I could say anything or ask what she meant.
Oh no!
Why isn't he teleporting Tattletale out? Or himself? There's still time for... I looked at the cloud. Not enough time to save both now. He could save one of them, and it could probably get Atlas there and get out of harm's way before the miasma reached me. His power gets slower with distance and difference in mass. The Dancer hugged herself. Maybe it's too slow and he doesn't think you'd have time to run, or, I said. The sentence didn't deserve to be finished. There was the other reason. The notion that he was deliberately avoiding using his power, because he knew I didn't have the time to get back to them before the miasma reached them. Are you going to be okay? I don't know. When you've left, I'll use my power, and I guess I'll wait here until... She stopped. Until when? There was nothing saying this miasma of bonesaws would disappear or settle anytime soon. I hate being alone, Sundancer said. She settled into a sitting position. It's like I can count on one hand the number of times I've actually been on my own. When I was little, I was always with my mom. We're always in school, always in after-school activities. Ballet, violin, lyrical dance, voice lessons, acting lessons. Never a moment to think for myself. Even after I stopped all that, I was with my friends. Always in a group. I stared at Tattletale and Trickster. I couldn't make out their faces, but my bugs could make out the shapes of sounds that had to be words.
Oh.
They were having a conversation, just like we were. I remember you said it was lonely, being in the Travelers. It was. It is. But I was still with them, part of the group. The time I've spent in my territory is the longest I've spent on my own. Actually managing the territory, scaring off Hookwolf's people, that was easy. Being all on my own was unfamiliar ground. Soul-crushing. I wound up going back to Coil's base and spending time with Noelle and Oliver. But being alone, agonizing over everything that's been going on, no distractions? The miasma had reached the rooftop where Tattletale and Trickster stood. Trickster was pacing, while Tattletale stood with her back to me, her hand rubbing Bentley's blunted snout. It took only
mind control! That would be, sorry, I'm just thinking to myself, like, that would be another great one.
Ooh. It took only a few seconds for the mist to close in around them. There was no immediate reaction. The two teenagers and the dog simply stood, silhouettes in a stirring cloud of vapor that ranged from ruby red to crimson in shade.
A lot of suspense, so they're not going to die.
I swallowed past the growing lump in my throat. And now I'm alone, Sundancer said. You're going to go after the 9, and I'll wait here, all on my own, going crazy as I wait and watch and see just what happens to them. If I've picked up on anything over the last few months of wearing a costume, it's that humans are stronger than you'd expect, I said. It was as much to myself as the Sundancer.
This is the part of the series where, like, some really, like, moving music comes in the background.
We can endure a hell of a lot of punishment before we break, and even after we're broken, we tend to keep on going. Could be physical punishment, getting stabbed, getting scarred, broken bones. Could be mental. Losing a loved one, being tortured. Even the way I feel like breaking down and crying over the fact that just about every other member of my team is probably fucked, but I'm holding myself together. Humans can put up with a hell of a lot. I don't think this is the right time for optimism, Sundancer said.
I mean, if it keeps you alive, I mean, you can use all the help you can get.
Sundancer said, bitter. Optimism? I shook my head. No. It's a double-edged sword. If we weren't so resilient, so tenacious as a species, I don't think we'd be having this much trouble with Jack. I don't think Mannequin or Siberian would even exist like they do now. I'd almost call it pessimistic. Almost. She didn't reply. Speaking of Jack and Siberian, I started. Go. I left, taking off and heading for the spot I'd left Legend. Alright, I think this is a good stopping point.
Alright. I just want to see what this mist does. Does it melt faces? Is it mind control? Does it make you like puke yourself inside out like a sea cucumber? Like, what does it do?
I guess we'll find out next time on Panda Reaccs. Woo. Alright, it's late. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Any chance you can get off? Are you gonna be done with work a little earlier tomorrow or no?
Yeah, I'll finish early. We can finish the chapter if you want.
That'd be
Sound
nice.
good?
Well, today would have been great just because I managed to get home early from work, but like then you ended up working really late.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
All right.
let's see how this goes.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Vegeta. Thanks, Tower.
Oh, thank you guys.